Hi, it's me. It's Queen KB. Welcome to Wrestle Royalty's newest video cast, The Royal Council. With me today is Lord Lewis. We had to have somebody with an accent. Duke Dre, of course, and Baron Botch is here. So, because of everything going on in the world right now, we have been discussing wrestling in this pandemic and how things are faring. So we're going to be discussing who's flourishing, who's floundering, and how the major companies and even the indie shows are handling things these days. Anyone want to start off? Botch?
Sure. As far as the indie shows over here, they're not even really happening. But the ones that I was watching anyway are just kind of dark, and that's probably all for the best, just given the presentation. It's so audience driven, what the indies do, that there really wouldn't be any way conceivable to pull it off without an audience. I mean, we were actually talking a bit about this backstage before we started the video cast, but and we all disagree with each other, and it's fabulous. But I'm of the mind that the audience is like additional members of the roster, and that you kind of can't successfully have a wrestling show without an audience. It's not like your traditional football or soccer or baseball, or wrestling's not like that. Wrestling, absolutely 100% to me anyway, requires an audience in order to truly flourish. They're doing it because of TV deals and they don't have a choice. But in terms of it flourishing and doing really well, to me anyway, they need an audience. There's so many promos that have been done and you just think that it's good. It's all there. But man, if there was an audience, if there was somebody for Randy Orton to react to. I mean, Steve Austin, this is the perfect example, right? I won't talk too long, I promise. But that was the one that Steve Austin Stone Cold is a legend. There's no getting around it. Few people cut promos better than Steve Austin. That last promo that he cut is the worst thing I've ever seen, this side of Jumpin' Jeff Farmer.
I loved it.
He couldn't do it, to me anyway, just from
I didn't like it.
Myself, he couldn't do it because he kept going tough room, like over and over again. He was lost. He's used to a crowd, and without the crowd, and Byron is a legend because he was
Byron saved it.
He was doing everything he could, but it just didn't, to me anyway. And we all have opinions, and that's fine. But to me, it was like, bro, no, like it just didn't work for me. And there have been lots of instances of that where promos have been significantly better than that one was for me anyway. But like without an audience, things aren't as good as they could be.
See, that's where I disagree. I mean, I feel, just quickly going back to indie shows, there's no point in them doing it because they don't have the TV deal. They're not going to get the income because there's not going to be fans. But with the TV stuff, other than the first couple of weeks where they're trying to figure out how to do it, I feel like it's been just as good, if not something better, without an audience. I mean, some of the sounds that are coming through that you never could hear because the fans were always chanting, the thuds, just some of them are sickening, and it makes it feel more real. Like when Baszler smacked Becky across the announce table, that thud, it brings that realness to it that you don't get with the audience. And while I agree some promos have been awful because a lot of people, especially Stone Cold, rely on fans, I feel like a lot of them, they're actually able to get their points across and really engage with the audience because they haven't got that audience to overthrow it with chanting what or booing and, just disrupting it. So
I agree with the what's thing. I'm so glad we haven't heard what. I don't know how many.
Or the CM Punk chants.
Yeah. They just got so tiresome. And I feel like a lot of people are flourishing in their promos because they aren't getting overthrown by the fans.
Right?
Yeah, I think there's certain instances where having fans would be nice. For instance, if you go back to WrestleMania, Otis, when he had his big moment, he beat Dolph and he got the girl at the end. I do believe fans would have popped big time for that. I think his character specifically is designed for the fans. Like he needs the fans to play off of, and he doesn't have that. So it's kind of mad with. But I think once we get the fans back in, he'll be okay. I think Drew knocked it out the park, regardless. The promo he cut on Seth, the sit down that they had, the contract signing, it really didn't need fans. I mean, yeah, the fans would have helped, but I didn't really think they needed him. He was direct. He was to the point. His punchlines were just, they were gut punches, and you felt that. And I thought him and Seth did a really good job. They didn't really. I felt that it was actually better. That particular interview was better without the fans because it was the seriousness of it. It was just, you just felt the intensity in the room, and I don't think you needed the fans for that. So.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. I mean, I think the only thing that really worked for me, anyway, just as botch, the only thing that worked perfectly without an audience was the Boneyard match.
Absolutely.
Had there been any crowd reaction to the Boneyard match, it would have completely thrown it off. That had to be solitary. It had to be lonely. It had to Lewis's point. Like, we got all this nuance from Undertaker. This was a totally different Undertaker than we've seen in years. I mean, alive in this environment and constantly trash talking AJ. I mean, it was just the most brilliant of the WrestleMania matches, easily, specifically because there was no crowd noise. It would never have worked with crowd noise.
Well, also, so much of that was post-production, and things that Taker could not have done were made to look so much better because of how it was filmed and the fact that it went to post-production. And I mean, we've all been talking that Taker needs to hang him up, but I am not adverse to a couple more matches of that.
Well, he signed 15 years, hasn't he?
Oh my God.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
15 years from when, though?
I think he just resigned, a year ago, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's already knackered.
Exactly.
I had to start.
But I think the one thing that has really been a blessing from all of this, from not having fans, is the Money in the Bank match. That was just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got so much. I mean, as I said in the review, like, if it could have gone on easily 30 minutes longer, and I still would have been just completely entertained. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun, but I don't think it could have gone that much longer. I would have liked more on the roof, personally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when they got to the roof, they really just kind of skipped over and just went to the end.
Right.
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
That felt like we were running out of time. Yeah.
I have to say, Asuka kicking King Corbin off the ladder was just one of those wonderful moments for me.
And speaking of Asuka, man, she has by far been the MVP of the.
Oh, yeah.
Or by far the MVP.
Without the fans, she is rocking it. Yeah. I love her on mic now that we don't have the fans. She's just, I will say, she's killing it without the fans there, personally.
And you know what's so funny is it's almost like she's a lot looser. She's not too seriously. She's just going out there and she's having fun, and it's translating.
It is in a big way. She seems. I don't know what her crowd history was in other parts of the world, but it makes me wonder if she falls into the same boat Dana Brooke does, that you put her in front of too many people and she tenses up, but you put her in front of a small crowd like the NXT crowd or no crowd at all, and they feel more at home and they do better. And I'm wondering if Asuka's falling into that boat too, because she feels as wonderful as she did back in NXT again.
Yeah, and the transition from heel to face has been just so smooth. Like, you didn't even know it just happened, but it's like it's believable. Yeah, it was just so, her character is just it's so fun. She's just so legendary, so energetic. So
yeah, she is. And actually, now that you brought that up, like that whole thing with Becky and she together, that was a beautiful moment anyway. As it was, there were onions in the room. It was weird how they just appeared. The stupid onions.
I mean,
But with a crowd, though, can you imagine how much
No,
more that would have been?
no, I think that would have ruined it. That
I
would,
agree.
to me, that would have ruined it because who knows how they would have reacted. They might have, they might have chanted "Thank you, Becky." They might have overthrown that moment. And
Come on now.
what I love about that is you're engrossed in what's happening there. You're not taken out of it from fans. It's just that moment.
I will give you that the moment felt more personal that way.
Yeah.
I'll give you that all day long. That I understand. And I think that's what we were responding to, and probably you too, Lou, and Kendra as well, was probably and Dre, the personal nature of the whole thing. That was more personal, more intimate. I give you that. But with the crowd in the room, they all would have just loved the whole thing. The room would have lit up. Thank you, Becky. We love you, Becky. Congratulations. All over the place.
Yeah.
It would have been a very different thing.
But at the same time,
gotten that beautiful reaction from Asuka if the fans had been there. I know that.
Not just that as well, but throughout, because obviously it was hard for her to get it out, and you'll always constantly have the fans just chanting, and they'd take over that moment, in my opinion.
Okay.
And they all would have known what was happening beforehand, because in the dignified discussion, people were asking before she announced it. And I had jumped into the show a couple minutes late, and as soon as I saw her face, I knew she was pregnant.
Oh, sure. We all did. Yeah.
And I think if they had had the couple of wrestlers in the front row the way AEW does it, that would have been the perfect amount of reaction, whereas I think the full crowd would have taken over.
I just think it would have been different, and I don't think different is necessarily bad. It would have been a very different thing.
Yes, but you have to look at it that this is, according to some people it isn't, but most people believe this is the perfect time for her to be pregnant and to be away. And if the fans had been there, I think they might have crumbled a little. They would have loved that she's pregnant, but been really upset that she was leaving.
Yeah.
I think the only time an announcement really truly needs a crowd is a retirement moment. I mean, you could argue that might have been a retirement moment for Becky, but like when Daniel Bryan retired and when Edge retired, without a crowd, that would have just been horrible to watch.
Yeah, it'd been depressing. It would have been more depressing.
Retirement even would have been horrible.
Or if you're doing like the fake retirement angle with Mark Henry.
Yeah, that needed a crowd.
That needed the crowd.
Oh yeah,
that was amazing.
That was one of the best things I've seen.
Man,
Mark Henry was never better.
Oh,
never better than that. That was just
never.
I'll never forget his salmon suit.
Yes.
Not just that he wore it, but that he wore it well.
Oh, he rocked it.
Oh, big time.
And his son wore it at the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Yes.
Oh, he did. Yeah. 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny.
So we've all been comparing what AEW has done for crowd reaction and fan reaction with with having wrestlers in the front row, the heels on one side, the face on the other. Some people love it, some people hate it. I see you chomping at the bit, Botchko.
I think it's brilliant. I think Tony Khan gets it. I think Vince McMahon doesn't. That's the long and the short of it. And now I would assume that there are probably, what do I want to say? Probably some rules, municipality-wise, that may be keeping that from happening. But watching this whole thing go down at Daly's place and then QT Marshall's gym and the whole, Tony Khan just knows what he's doing. I said it before. I'll say it again. The audience is another member of the roster. There has to be something. There has to be some kind of give and take. Although Jake Roberts and Arn Anderson certainly didn't need it last night, which was a whole other bag. My gosh, that was brilliant. If you haven't seen it, you would just see it. But there has to be some kind of a give and take between the wrestlers and the ring and whoever it is that's out there. It doesn't matter if it's the Maharaja of Kuch Baha. There should be somebody out there that you can react to, some kind of give and take. Even if you know what they're going to give you, there should be something. It's wrestling. It's not. it's not football, it's not baseball. I stumbled on what I was going to say, but it's a point. Like I was about to say it's not a real sport, but that's not fair because it is. But it's not like that in the sense that you can just have it going on and it's no big deal. You have to have a crowd. Tony Khan knows this. He has supplied enough of a crowd, as much of a crowd as he probably can. And I mean, think of it this way, and we talked about this before we started. If this doesn't happen, we don't get Pineapple Pete. We don't get Nasty Leroy. We don't get all of these colorful characters on the sideline. We don't get Jason Reed. We don't get all this great stuff going on the side.
But would you not argue that's Jericho's doing, not having the crowd do it? Like, you could have them out there and Jericho not being there. Would there still be a Pineapple Pete?
But they
maybe not a Pineapple Pete, but he would still have been recognized by whoever unannounced. I really believe that.
Okay. I would hope that you would be right, but
I'm not sure they would have.
For him to be in the audience, that's what because it would have, those seats would be taken over by ticket buyers.
Right.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have been Pineapple Pete, but he probably, I think the announcers with the ringside wrestlers getting involved, the announcers would have continued to help push the wrestlers along the front rows along, as they have seemed to do even when it's not Jericho unannounced.
But I've found the crowd has been less of a extra thing since Excalibur and Jim Ross have been back. I think it was only really more fun when Jericho was there, pointing them out and going, look at that idiot and stuff like that. While Excalibur, Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, they don't really acknowledge the crowd. I feel they're just more engaged in what's happening in the ring.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to be. They're commentators.
Well, of course, yeah. But that's why I'm saying, I like the crowd. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it from times, but watching last night's show, the Brody Lee stuff, the crowd just felt really it felt like they were trying to be what a crowd would be doing. Like, let's boo him, and let's say, that's not his title and stuff like that. And it just felt really forced and not fun, like it's been at the start of it. Like they're trying to script the crowd.
That, and you need like with the whole elite and the inner circle thing, it makes sense to have their members at ringside because they're part of this. They're part of the storyline. But then, like to your point, Lewis, they have other matches where you have guys out there, and it's like they don't have nothing to do with this angle. Why are they out here? Why are they these people? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I get what you're saying. Sometimes it feels forced, but to Botch's point, when you have Jericho, picking on Pineapple Pete and giving people these nicknames, it works really well. So
yeah,
to me, it's hit or miss. I don't hate the concept. I mean, having people out there, I get why they do it, and so I'm not mad at them for doing it. But to me,
I mean, I like it.
Not necessary, but at times it does add to the show. But I don't think it's always necessary, though.
Like having the wrestlers come out and sing Jericho's theme is the greatest thing in life.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I mean, having
so into it. Great.
Yeah, but I mean, like having like 12 guys out there, in the front row, or whatever. It's not going to mask the fact that there's 5,000, 10,000 people missing.
See, I think it just gives just enough of that background noise, just enough. Not enough that you think there's a crowd there, but enough that you don't have to listen to JR as closely.
But you didn't have that problem when there was no Jericho, when Jericho was on commentary.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Jericho unannounced was just one of the best things AEW has done since they started, and he should be unannounced more.
And they did it with Triple H from the very first SmackDown.
I don't know why they stopped that, because he was fantastic.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I thought they should bring in HBK too and really let them be silly. They're the best of friends. They have such good banter. They could take SmackDown to a whole new level.
Agreed.
Problem is, though, if you give them that freedom, they might try and take over the show rather than add to it.
I think those two specifically know well enough to where to draw that line.
But they might not have a choice. I mean, this is HBK and Triple H we're talking about. Even if they're trying to take a back seat, they are who they are. People are going to pay attention to them, and then all of a sudden, to Lewis's point, they become the attraction rather than, say, Apollo Crews or Asuka or somebody else that due to circumstance has been able to get much further. That's a whole other discussion.
That's a whole other thing I wanted to bring up since you brought it up. What about the wrestlers who are getting pushes, wrestlers who are, I hate to say it, taking the ball that Roman and Sammy have left for taking care of their own health and their family's health, which I applaud them for straight up. I give them huge props for standing up for their principles and saying no. These other young guys are stepping up and killing it. I mean, there's a list as long as my arm of wrestlers who have really stepped up and are proving things. Go for it, Botch. I see you over there.
Apollo Crews, though.
Yes, sir.
I'm getting it out. Apollo Crews was lost in the sauce for such a long time.
Years.
And I remember sauce. It was sauce and it was thick. I'm telling you, it was sauce. But I remember watching him on the indies as Uha Nation. If you haven't seen any of that stuff on YouTube, most of it is there. Go look. It's fabulous. He's such a great worker. He has a much bigger personality than had ever been shown in WWE. I'm like, where is Uha? Like, I'm not seeing him. I didn't see it for the brief time he was in NXT. Certainly wasn't seeing it on the main roster. And now that these opportunities exist, where he's actually showing up on screen, we're actually seeing the personality. It's like, finally, there's Uha. Like, he's finally on the screen. He's there. The ring work is solid.
That's always been solid.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, now all of a sudden, he's got a personality. And that's really starting to shine. And you can tell there's a little rust there because it's been a minute since he's been able to show it. But he's really getting there. So Apollo is just winning. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he showed so much range. Like, you know, we saw him when they broke the news to him that he was going to be out of Money in the Bank because of the injury, and you can see just the emotion on his face. I was like, man, that's some damn good acting right there.
Yes.
And, snarky with Zelina and Andrade just last week. Yes. And, kind of getting those little zingers in and those gut punches in there. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started with the Aleister Black match, honestly, that 30-minute match that they got because, you know, couldn't fill the time with other wrestlers. You know, and that was all she wrote, you know.
Aleister Black seems to be the guy that seems to be pushing these guys, because if it wasn't for Aleister Black, Murphy probably wouldn't be with Seth Rollins right now. That match between those two sold Murphy.
True.
And again, happened on Monday with Austin Theory. It looks like he Murphy'd his way in with Rollins.
I think Austin Theory out of everyone, has had the best opportunity because of this, because he's been here for how long? Since December.
Yeah.
And now he's joined forces with Seth Rollins on the main show.
And it's like he's taken that opportunity just like Apollo did. He's taken that opportunity. He's taking the lemons of the situation and making the tastiest lemonade. He's killing it, and it's proven by the fact that he was dropped from that one faction and picked up by the other. Heyman wasn't ready to stop with him yet, neither should he have been.
And he's 22?
And another guy I want to bring up, I mean, I know he's been around for a while, but just Bobby Lashley, you know.
Yes.
Putting him with MVP, man, is just like...
It's brilliant. Still doing
it just works.
I mean, he's got a title shot, so it's worked.
And that's the thing. He's already he's legit as they come. You know, his resume speaks for itself. He's belted for MMA. You know, and then so you put him with MVP. MVP is a great talker, and you know, I like the passive aggressiveness of MVP when he kind of interrupted his interview and said, "Oh, Lashley doesn't have time for that. He's too busy beating up on our truth. He's too busy doing this," and you know, kind of getting under Lashley's skins. You know, trying to motivate him to ditch Lana. You know. It just works, man. You see them together, just like that just makes so much sense. And I'm like, I can standing across the ring from Heyman and Lesnar. I could see it now.
He only ever needed a mouthpiece. He had it with Leo. He had a great mouthpiece with Leo. Leo was ridiculously good, but good in a completely different way than MVP is. MVP is seasoned veteran good. And so that gives him this whole other dimension, because that's really what Lashley is. Lashley is a seasoned veteran who, if he got in the ring in real time, could kill you if he so chose. And that's what MVP is selling. And it's very easy to buy it as a result. And things are just going so much better for him as a result, I think.
Yeah. I don't agree with Vink and Thorne. I think they've obviously thrived under this as well, getting this, stable now. But I feel it should be Cedric and Ricochet's to
Yeah,
not them.
I
Agreed.
agree.
But
I
Vince is
think,
low on Ricochet right now for some daft reason.
Mm.
And Cedric almost.
and to your point, I think with Vic and Thorne, if you're gonna have them there, just put them with Lana or something, or since you're gonna have her there, I don't know what else to do with them, but
I think they
it doesn't
should
really
be
match.
they should be in NXT. I like them as a team and they're interesting, but they should be on NXT fighting for the titles down there.
I agree.
Because
You got
they're
Imperial.
lacking tag teams in NXT. They're not needed up in the main roster, not yet anyway. And they get more time. It'll be more interesting. They can build their characters.
I'll agree
I don't know
with
why
that,
they're
but
rushing it.
we're hurting for wrestlers on Raw and SmackDown lately. It seems like the roster is very slim.
I think Raw was after WrestleMania, but now Owens is back. Orton, Edge, they're all coming back. It's starting. You don't need these other guys.
Yeah, and they don't have to fill it up with matches that have already occurred from elsewhere. Remember at the very beginning of the COVID thing, where they just didn't know what to do with themselves, so they were showing like past WrestleMania matches just to kill time. Thankfully, they're not doing that anymore because that was a bad idea.
They didn't know what to do. They were a mess.
Oh, I know, and it's understandable too. It's understandable why this would have caught them off guard. Just to be clear, like I get it, but I'm glad they're not doing it anymore.
What are the odds of them rehiring some of the guys they had to let go in about 5 or 6 months? You think there's a chance, or?
It's not like things are ever going to go back to normal. Everything has to change, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing, FYI. But there will be a new normal to take its place, and they'll have to get used to not taking in as much money as before. I don't know. I mean, maybe some of them will, but what's going to happen with like house shows, for instance? How do you even run house shows? If you don't run house shows, you don't need a bunch of refs to do it. You don't need a bunch of producers. You don't need.
But they've been canceling house shows before COVID hit too.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Well, here's my theory though. Diseases and viruses, they were always there. They don't disappear. You just find a vaccine for it, and it becomes like a common cold or flu or fever. You know what I mean? Like you don't necessarily don't ever go away. They were always there to begin with. You know what I mean?
This ain't that. This is. I agree with you, but this isn't. That's not what this is. I mean, even as we sit here now, the virus that we're currently dealing with is mutating, and it's turning into something else. They're having trouble coming up. They're having trouble knowing anything. I mean, this is.
But isn't that the case with everything though? Like if you go back to medieval times, you had plagues wiping out half of the population, and now that's whatever that was. It's not what it was then. You know what I mean?
But the swine flu and the avian flu did not mutate the way this thing is. That's the difference.
And I mean, I don't remember any time, and Kendra wouldn't either, and Dre wouldn't either, just because we're the old people here, Lou. But this has never happened in our lifetime or in our parents' lifetime or even in our grandparents' lifetime where we've had a virus just stop life. And that's what makes it different from every other virus. This has stopped life. The doctors know nothing.
And there's different symptoms coming up each and every week.
It's true, but who knows if they're even real? The doctors don't know anything. They say things like, yeah, okay, whatever. Because then they just end up taking back what they say 2 or 3 days later, maybe like a week later, and you're like, I can't play the game because you keep changing the rules, so I don't know what to do. Yeah. And once you get wrestling caught up in this, or like the house show business, it's like, how do you even do it? It's like, that's nice that they're taking temperatures. That's cool, but you can be asymptomatic and still pass the virus on. So that's not enough either. So how do you ever have house shows again? How do you do it?
I think we'll get back to a place where we're able to do that again. I don't know when, but it'll happen eventually.
I hope so, because they're fun. I mean, I've been to them; they're fun to go to, but I just don't. Yeah. I don't know how you do. I hope you're right. I really do.
But I do think for the wrestler's sake, though, maybe just like I said, just cutting back. Maybe you do 2 house shows a week, and you do the live show, so that way the wrestlers are off 4 days a week. I mean, I think that would be ideal for everybody involved. They can still make a little money with the merch sales that they make on the house shows and everything, but they can still have downtime with their family and friends, and have a life. So.
Or maybe they can stream live shows.
What'd you say?
Stream live shows. on the WWE network.
Yeah,
That would be really
yeah,
fun
yeah.
because you get to see guys having more fun and kind of more relaxed because it's not canon. You know what I mean? So that would
Yeah,
be fun. That's a good idea.
I
that's
love
good.
house shows for that reason. They're so much fun.
Yeah.
That's a good point too, Dre, because they really don't have to be canon. They don't have to follow a storyline. They can just be for fun.
Yeah.
And then those that want to, maybe they can do like an added fee kind of thing, where if you want to take in the house shows, just give us a little extra money.
And we saw that with the mixed tag match, kind of the same thing. It wasn't really canon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
That is a good idea.
Let's get WWE on the phone.
Yeah, right. So, but I mean, but in terms of like the business as a whole, it's like the whole way that it operates going forward has to change. I mean, even when you're doing broadcasts, I mean, this isn't Techwood Drive. Kendra and I are old enough to remember Techwood Drive, the old NWA show on TBS back in the 80s.
Yep.
Yes, I'm old, deal with it. But but there's none of, but that just slightly, yeah. But there's no way to go back to that anymore because WWE specializes in huge. WWE is huge. WWE is not immediate. They're huge. How does that hugeness continue? It's not cheap to rent out arenas that you can't fill. They have to make their money back somehow. So even that has their whole presentation has to change to something else. And I'm sure they're already thinking about what that could look like, but I have no clue.
I assume until it's safe to travel, they'll probably start letting in small amounts of crowds to the performance center and just have it there because they already own the building. They're only going to make more money from it. I think that's the only way they're going to be able to do it to make money.
And since we're talking about shows, why not stick our toe into the stickiest and ugliest shows they do every year? What do you think's going to happen with the Saudi shows? Sorry.
I mean, it's probably safer over there than it is here to run a show. If you're really getting technical with it. I mean, it's not a good idea to do it, but I'm just saying they don't have the cases of COVID that we have, but they won't do it though. They should.
Yeah, they do.
What is it like out there? I literally don't know. I mean,
It's not as bad as it is here.
I heard it was just as bad.
I haven't, because we have like 33% of all cases in the world, and we only make up like the population.
Oh, we're a train wreck for sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know.
As a matter of fact, most of like the second and third world countries don't have it as bad as the first world countries. Because
no, but I thought Saudi Arabia was struggling.
I never heard anything about that.
Okay.
I didn't know.
I mean, you could be right, but I haven't read anything about that.
But it goes back to travel and the lack thereof right now. So.
Yeah.
Well, there is still travel. Like people can still travel,
but you have to have a dang good reason for it, and I don't think Vince McMahon has a dang good reason for it, in my opinion.
Well, they haven't gone yet, and they usually go around the time, so they're on pause right now, so it's not happening.
Right. Well, it's
June.
You
can pay for a reason. You can buy a good reason if you're Vince McMahon.
Well, yeah. Look at
essential business.
I mean, just look up. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say Florida decided it was
business designation. He bought it.
Yeah, he did. Except in buying it, he also gave AEW a great platform place to play.
But I'm sure he's not worried about that.
Oh,
well,
I know.
How did AEW become essential? What did they have to do?
When Florida made wrestling essential, they just moved back to Florida because that's where
same with UFC.
But they were doing it even before that because they were filming in Georgia originally. They were dancing anyway. They just know how to dance.
I think didn't AEW record like 5 or 6 weeks worth of
did, and then they went to QT Marshall's gym and they had all of the right paperwork and they got through a bunch there. And then when Vince bought Florida, they moved right back to the Daily Place.
So Condo's Vincent thank you letter then.
What?
Say again?
I say Condo's Vincent thank you letter.
I'm not catching it.
I say Condo's Vincent thank you letter.
Yes, he does. In a big
way. We can't hear.
Need some hearing aids.
Yeah, but agreed, he does because it was Vince who made it happen, and Khan is.
But not just Khan, but Dana White as well.
But Khan would have found some other way to dance. He's been doing this. We need to say this. It can't be said enough. Tony Khan has been absolutely brilliant
Oh yeah.
throughout this whole thing. You could see Vince spinning his wheels trying to figure WWE out right after COVID hit. You couldn't see it with Tony Khan. I don't know why we didn't see it, but we didn't. He's been nailing the entire time.
But then you could argue AEW have one show to worry about and plan.
That doesn't
Vince
make
has
sense. You're wrong.
a lot of shows.
You're right. That's true. That's absolutely true because there isn't 3 shows. There's really just the one. But man, he's been nailing with that one show. Even if the ratings don't show
Bring it online too. His I have to say his approach on Twitter has been nice with the fans, the wrestling fans.
Mm-hmm. True.
He's handled this better than I thought possible. And this is obviously coming off the whole Dixie Carter TNA thing where I'm automatically once bit, twice shy. But Khan is killing it. Oh, hello. You know Dixie screwed over Impact so badly. And so when Khan, you know.
How much time do we have, Kendra? Like, yeah, you're right. we could go 2 hours on that.
I know, but what I'm saying is Tony has really done everything right compared to Dixie doing everything wrong.
Yes, well, honestly, compared to Vince, he's just done it better.
But I mean, from the beginning, Tony has been better, whereas Dixie walked in and was a epic mess.
Well, it wasn't her thing. I mean, she
wasn't a wrestling person.
Yeah, she wasn't. That's not her fault. She did the best she could with the little bit that she knew. And then, of course,
I thought TNA for a good 8 or 9 years was really good TV.
Say it again, Dre. I'm sorry.
Like for a good 8 or 9 years was really good TV, honestly.
At the beginning, it definitely was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But when she got her face on TV, it all started spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
I think the big difference. I think the big difference is though that Khan has people who know the industry. You know, the Young Bucks, Cody, to kind of guide him. Go, look, this makes sense. Let's do this. And Khan obviously puts his trust in them. And
not Tony, but Cody learned at the knee of one of the best ever. And Dustin, while he did not grow up with his father as much, he has a very interesting insight into the industry too. And the Young Bucks have really blown me away with what they've done. And then there's Brandy, who absolutely has to be mentioned. They are just such a well-oiled machine over there.
I will say the one flaw that AEW definitely have they need to fix is the women's division, though.
Big time.
It's been terrible.
Bad. Oh my gosh, it's so bad.
It's horrible.
It
looks like WWE did compared to the Knockouts when the Knockouts were great.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in like 2008, 2009.
Exactly. They are, and I'm so shocked because I really thought Brandy would push hard for the women. And
well, Brandy's not really. I mean, she's married to Cody, but she hasn't been around that long, though. You know what I mean?
She reminds me of the Diva era.
Yeah.
See, it doesn't with me at all. I mean, she has that look, but she is hard hitting. What, Botch?
She was Eden Styles. She wasn't involved in the women's division, really. It would make perfect sense that she wouldn't know what to do.
That's Kenny Omega's department, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's Kenny anyway.
That's him.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Because what he did is he got a load of people from from Japan.
Yeah.
Thought, they'll do great in the ring, but they can't talk.
Yeah.
So what do? You get other people in who aren't good enough to do the talking, and then it just looks like a mess in the ring.
Make a stable out of them and give them a mouthpiece. That's
they tried to. They tried to do that with what's that stable that Brandy had?
The Nightmare Collective.
Oh God, that was awful.
That was horrible. And then Awesome Kong had to leave, and it went the way of the dodo.
But it was already dead even when Awesome Kong was there because Brandy can't talk like that. She can't.
No, she's not evil.
No, she completely failed at that.
Like I think for me, Brandy's a really good ambassador, really good spokesperson. But I don't know how great of a wrestling mind she actually has, though. You know what I mean?
I just really thought she would push hard for the women to get pushed.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, Omega is obviously dropping the ball because
Massively.
there's just so many issues with the women, and I'm not even going to start on the Nyla Rose issue.
They need to get Finley in there to
You
sort
can't
that out.
She can't work, and I mean,
anything.
she can't do anything. And Britt, while has a good character, is really bad in the ring. And
Green, so very green.
and you know, I understand they want to push her character, but she's not fulfilling it very well.
I think she's done pretty good.
She's
But,
not backing it up in the ring.
But I think as well, it's not just that they're green; it's that their opponents don't speak English. So how do you form a match with someone who you can't communicate with? You're not talented. You're not talented. Yeah, but Oscar's fighting people who
Oscar
are
understands
talented.
English though. She understands English very well.
But what I'm saying is, you got Hikaru.
What was that?
What was her name? Shida.
Shida.
She's great. And
It's
then you're
gonna
putting
work
her
out.
against Britt Baker, who is green. How do you form a good match? You
Right.
can't, you know, Britt doesn't have the knowledge to form a good match, and Shida doesn't have the English to communicate
Right.
how to do everything. So it comes across staggered and bad.
Yeah.
But they have Kenny. Kenny should be dealing with that.
He should
Exactly.
He's just not.
Mm.
Or
Yeah,
whoever.
like I said, man, being a booker is a lot harder, man. And we, you know, it's easy for us to sit back and say, "Oh, they're not doing this," but it's a lot harder, man.
But I
Oh
mean,
yeah, but they're not doing anything.
But
Yeah.
surely you can watch the product and see that it's. And granted, I mean, we're not doing it. You're right. It is easy
Yeah.
for them to sit back
And here's another thing too. Who's available? Like, what women are available that they can bring in? And
oh gosh, they're all over the Indies.
There's what's her name? Who used to be Emma on in WWE? She'd
Who's that?
flourish.
Who's that?
Emma, who was in WWE, was a
But I think she's under contract though with RH, isn't she?
I just saw it. Tennille.
Tennille. That's it.
Yeah. It was killing me.
Like she'd thrive in AEW.
Yes.
I mean, I think she would, but is she available? That's the question. Is she under contract with somebody else?
I think she was when they were signing people,
Okay.
because she appeared in the casino battle royale, didn't she? When they did. Yeah. So she was available then, and they didn't, for some reason, skipped over her.
There are a lot of women who are just really well trained and would just bend over backwards for the chance.
Yes.
So they're out there. They just need to do something with. And the thing is, you'd think Omega would have enough of a handle on the women's division to really do something solid with it, because he gets the industry.
Yeah.
I'm just very surprised.
To your point, like there are so many women on the indies. There is no shortage of incredibly talented female workers. They're all over the place, just as many as there are men. Like it's very equal there. If you don't have the right women, get more. They're there. Pay attention.
Well, here's the problem. Do they have the money to go out and sign anybody right now because of what's going on? You know what I mean?
Well, it seems it, because I you know, this mystery opponent, no doubt, is going to be a new signing.
Oh,
It
yeah.
would have to be.
Brian Cage.
And I mean,
No, he's out. He's injured, right?
Well, he might be back. There's rumors he's going to be
Okay.
a mystery opponent.
But it's not that they don't have the women, they just have the wrong ones. They just went in the wrong direction with it completely. There are no, at least not that I can think of, there are no giant personalities. They need giant personalities that can get it done in the ring, and they don't have any of that.
Can Chris Statlander go?
Yeah, of course, Chris.
Well, she can go in the ring, but can she go on mic? Can she develop character?
She needs it seems like she might need a mouthpiece.
It's a little small right now. She'll probably get there. She has
Okay.
She has potential, but really nobody. I mean, when you talked about Britt, you were dead on. She's a train wreck in the ring. Not as bad as Nyla, but nobody's that bad.
And we haven't seen Riho in how long?
Well, she's stuck in Japan, isn't
She's
she?
stuck in Japan. Yeah.
And that's the other problem. They signed a lot of Asian wrestlers who are now stuck over there, so they've got a very small pool of female wrestlers.
So there are so many who are chomping at the bit. They just need to get a few of them and really do something, because they're gonna start losing fans if they do not focus on the women.
And indie is dark right now. They're sitting there twiddling their thumbs. Grab them. They're not busy.
Yeah, even if you just do a per show, get someone in, do a
Exactly.
job to someone, see if they're worth signing.
Exactly. And then you keep the ones that are fantastic because they're there. They're out there.
It's kind of how you got Pineapple Pete. He was brought in because he was nearby.
Exactly.
Brought him in, and he became absolute and complete fire. Now everybody knows what many of us have known for years, that he's just that good and he deserves to be paid attention to. So they just need to open their eyes a little bit when it comes to the women and go after this indie talent that's out there, because just like it is with men, it is with women. They're there. Just get them.
And Florida is full of them.
Of course, it's a wrestling area. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Bring them in.
So that's like, they have the people there. They just need to put in a bit of legwork to get the women and get storylines going.
Yeah, because I think the men's side of AEW, they're stacked. They don't need to keep bringing new people, and they need to start building the people that have got there, like the Kip Sabians and the Pineapple Pete's now. You know, they just need to start building on those people. The women,
Right.
they need people who can actually do a job.
Exactly. And they're there. They're sitting there waiting for that call. Hey, maybe they should be calling AEW going, hey, I'm bored.
Yeah. Give me a shot.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when I have to say this too, like when you look at, like, to go back to WWE for a moment, like, why are we sleeping on Cedric Alexander? Why are we sleeping on Ricochet? Like, they put the two of them together, which I'm totally fine with, but they're not letting them light it up. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you're starving for content. You got 3 hours to fill. Let them light it up. Let them show you what they can do. I've seen Cedric Alexander on the indie scene. I used to watch him on CWF. He was fantastic. He's got tons of personality. He cuts a great promo. Just let him do it. I've seen Ricochet on the indies forever. He can cut a great promo. Just let him do it. Let them go.
To be fair, Ricochet's build at the top, he was awful on the mic.
But
Yeah, I've not been a fan of him on the mic, to be honest with you.
But that's scripting. If you just give him bullets, I've seen it myself, and it's on YouTube. But if you let it, wow. But
It jumped.
it's the tripod. But if you let them go with just bullet points, everything's fine. They can both do it. I've seen it. It's on YouTube if you're curious. It's just the scripting that's killing them softly.
It's like I said, man, put them in that stable with MVP and Lashley, man, and you got some money right there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cedric can be a heel. He can
Oh, yeah.
Oh, easily. Both of them could.
Ricochet, absolutely.
I've never seen Ricochet as a heel.
I bet he could do it. I can see it in him.
Well, I don't know,
And if you
because
don't, and if you
certain
don't, if you
people
have,
just aren't heels. Some people just don't got it in them.
but if you have MVP as your mouthpiece, you don't really need to do
Exactly.
much. Just do the dirty tricks in the ring, and you're a heel.
Cedric could be Neville. That's how good.
Yeah, Cedric could be. I think I can see Cedric pulling it off. Ricochet, I'm still, on the fence about, but
I really honestly believe it's just this, and I understand why you feel that way, because based on what we've seen on WWE, it's like, because you watch him, it's like, come on, like, give me more. You're giving me something, but give me more, wait, more. Like, that's been the problem in WWE, and I think that's just scripting.
But I will say, we're talking about, Ricochet and Cedric. We left out a name, a person who's done really well, Sonya Deville.
Yes.
Who?
Oh, God.
Sonya Deville.
Sonya.
She's been a
Oh
revelation.
my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
But I've been saying that from day one, that she had this in her.
You
I
had it.
knew this. I had been saying since day one that Mandy was holding her back, and
Yep.
Sonya was a huge star. I said this from a couple weeks in when they
Oh,
first
you did.
showed up,
You did. I remember. You did. You're right.
and I am so glad to see Sonya really just killing it
Yeah.
and giddy.
Yeah.
The way she turned on Mandy was just incredible.
It was beautiful.
Her timing was so good.
And I think if an audience had been there, they would have made somewhat of a hash out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, massively. I think they would have just poo-pooed it.
I wonder,
Yep.
about that. Like, because that would have it. I will say that when there is a crowd involved, it does change the rhythm of some things.
Mhm.
Yep.
have to wonder what that might have done to.
So sometimes the crowd doesn't let something breathe.
That's
Right.
true. Yeah.
And I think that segment, I think the fans either would have seen it coming and already turned on Sonya, or
Yeah.
they wouldn't have bought it. I think it would have been either they saw it too soon or wouldn't have bought it at all.
Yeah, they probably would have just started chanting "what." Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know because this Otis Ziggler angle, even before the COVID stuff, it was gaining a lot of steam with the live.
Oh yeah.
So,
But I just seen I don't think the fans would have bought Sonya going out there being nice to Mandy the way she was.
you mean being nice or turning on her?
Being nice to her. I think they would have believed the turn. I think they would have seen the turn coming and have basically announced it before Sonya could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for that segment, I think it was, I mean, some segments I think have been better because we haven't had the fans there, but most of them, I think the noise is important, at least for the matches.
Yeah.
Well, I just think right now you're in a situation in the WWE, you're used to you're trained to wrestle in front of 10, 20,000 people, 100,000 people, whatever event it is. Yeah. And a lot of guys in AEW, they're coming from the indies, so they're kind of used to working the smaller crowd. And so it's taking the guys in WWE a little bit longer to adapt. But I think they've done a pretty good job. Like I've enjoyed SmackDown a lot, the last couple of weeks. I've enjoyed Sonya Deville. I've enjoyed the Otis stuff and the Fiend, not so much Braun Strowman, but some of the other guys I've really enjoyed a lot. So.
I thought last week Braun started to look better.
Yeah, he did.
I think since his match with Bray.
All writing and it's crap for Braun, and it's been crap for Braun since he left the family.
Yeah, it's all relative. It was better, but only in a relative sense. It hasn't been good. It's just been better.
The problem is it's because it was Reigns' spot, and he came in last minute, and they don't know what to do with him. So they've just been doing it on the fly, and it's just fallen completely flat.
I'm going to say this about Braun. They should have never turned him face, and I think it was late 2017 when they turned him. It was right before Survivor Series.
Yep.
They had at least a good 2 or 3 more years of him as being a monster heel before they turned him.
Agreed.
He's just been so corny. Like, everything this is just cornball. Like,
well, have you seen the stuff on YouTube and Instagram? He's walking around in kitty cat suits, and that's just kind of who he is.
He's a silly goober.
Yeah, so that doesn't help him. It's like, dude, you're supposed to be a killer, man. We don't want to see you doing that,
All right, show me some intensity
a little bit. You have to protect your character a little bit outside the ring.
Yeah.
So.
But the one thing I do wanted to mention is how certain people have been treated on the main roster compared to NXT, because I feel like you can tell the different managing styles between Triple H and Vince McMahon, where Jordan Devlin and Kyle O'Reilly have been protected and been made not to look like bad people for not turning up. Well, you've got Sami Zayn and Reigns who are like they're trying to be forgotten about, and I feel like they've the way it's been dealt on NXT, I think, is commendable to the people that have decided I've got to stay at home. But
I think the whole thing with Roman and Sammy about Vince or being down, I think that's a bunch of dirt sheet BS. I mean, to me, it almost feels like they're not talking about Roman because they don't know when he's going to be back. So why bring him up? They don't know when he's going to return. If he's things like that. So it's like, why bring him up?
Yeah, I agree. I think
but removing him from videos and stuff makes me wonder just how pissed off Vince is.
Yeah,
but I mean, they showed him at TLC. They had like a big poster of him there.
But they cut him out of the videos for Make-A-Wish and Seth Rollins. There was no need to do that. I mean, the stuff he's done for Make-A-Wish is amazing.
He's done a lot.
Why cut him out of that? Why make him non-existent?
I say just make it an angle. Have him come back and have Vince be pissed at him. Make it an angle.
Sure.
That's what I would do.
If that's what you think, then that's what we'll do. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll do that. We'll run with that.
That's what I would do if I was in Vince's shoes. Like, well, hey, they got this rumor out here that I'm mad at you. So when you come back, I'm going to mistreat you. I'm going to throw all these obstacles in front of your way. I'm going to say that we're moving on without you. Go for it.
They did it with Kofi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Worked brilliantly.
Yeah,
We loved it.
yeah,
Mhm.
I thought it was
We ate
absolutely
that up.
the
Yeah.
whole thing was delicious. I was so into it. Like, why do you keep doing this thing?
yeah.
We were all
I remember I told you guys too. I legit said, man, if Kofi loses this match at Mania, I'm gonna cry. Seriously.
You did. I remember that. You did say that. We were so into it, and just like to go to. We should mention Chad too, but there's that clip. It's been all over Twitter lately of he and MVP together.
Oh yeah.
Kofi won. That
Yeah.
emotional moment between the two of them, like that was everyone.
Yeah.
Because it had been done so well, the story had been told so completely
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
so brilliantly that we all kind of gave into that moment. I was sitting here on my couch, like,
Yeah, like when Big E held up the environmental title that Brian had, the fans booed, and then Xavier pulled back the the black robe on the other title, and he started hearing tears coming down his eyes because I remember he did an interview like 5 or 6 years ago where he said his goal was to make Kofi the champion. This was like years ago. I don't know if it was but maybe 3 years ago he said this, 3 or 4 years ago.
They both said it. Like their whole aim was to make him champion.
And I thought it would never happen. I'm like, man, that's a nice guy, right? I mean, that's a good guy right there. You know, you want to elevate your friend.
Oh
but
yeah.
I don't think it's ever gonna happen. That's what I was thinking to myself. But when it happened, and you see Xavier, the tears coming down his eyes, and him lifting up the title, I was just like, man, that was just the cherry on the top right there. That just hit home.
Yeah.
That's friendship. That's
Now it's Big E's time.
friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah, and speaking of that too, like I never want to see. Clearly, I have no desire to see the New Day break up, but obviously, but man, why not now? If you're gonna do it, go ahead and do it now. I mean,
now that needs a live crowd. That needs a live.
They need a live crowd for that.
Yes,
I agree.
they do. They need a live crowd for that.
That I can understand.
Yeah.
But I think it would be fun to see him to see Big E fly on his own. I think a feud between he and Kofi would be epochal.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because they can knock their faces off. They can work in the ring beautifully. They can tell a great story because they know each other and there's chemistry.
Yeah.
And
I think they could go.
words.
I think they could go to the heights of Gargano and Ciampa.
Oh yeah. And
Oh,
you have Xavier caught up in the middle. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
When he comes back, if there's ever any modicum of a crowd,
Yeah.
like you got at some point, you gotta do it. I know they never want to break up, but
Yeah.
it'll be electric. And because they've been together so long, when it finally does happen,
Yeah.
it'll be delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But as I said from very early on of New Day, that they are a group that can split up and will come back together like DX.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's always money in the
Those
reunion at some
factions
point.
that it would work.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, final thoughts on how the wrestling industry is handling this pandemic. Botch?
This has caught everybody off guard. It just has. No one, just on a human level, there's no way any of us could have seen this coming. It hit us. We were all caught blindsided, just in our lives.
Yeah.
If you're a wrestling company that is employing that many people and you've got a network show and you have to stand and deliver 3 times a week, I can't begin to imagine how stressful this must have been for them to figure it out. We watched them be human for a few weeks and stumble and blow it. AEW didn't, but we watched WWE kind of stumble because they're human beings trying to figure this whole thing out and probably dealing with their own emotions just as human beings. And I can't believe this is happening. But as much as they can be successful, they are turning out shows that are worth watching. AEW is doing it better. But WWE isn't doing a horrible job. It's not as horrible as it had been. Moving to AEW, AEW's gotten it right from the very beginning. I don't know how or why, but somehow Tony just seems to have this intrinsic understanding of what makes wrestling work, and he seems to just intrinsically understand that there has to be somebody there to react to. And because of that understanding, while the ratings have not reflected it, I just find that the show has been just much more watchable. And the industry as a whole, as much as is possible, they have stepped up and they have delivered as best they could. So kudos really to both promotions.
Dre?
Yeah, I'm fine with the way they've both handled it. I mean, I'm glad that there's something that I still have to look forward to on Monday. You know, there's no basketball, there's no baseball, and obviously no boxing, no MMA. So I'm glad that there's still something that I can watch that's not a repeat or like a movie, or something like that. So I'm very grateful for Vince and Tony and all the wrestlers that are still coming to work every day and putting on their work gear and performing for us. Man, I'm really appreciative of that. Like, I have no issues with it whatsoever. If there's wrestlers that want to stay home, hey, I'm not mad at you. I don't blame you. And for the wrestlers who do show up, like, appreciate it, man. Thank you for entertaining me. You didn't have to do it, but you're doing it anyway. So that's off to you.
Mm-hmm. And Lewis?
I mean, yeah, everyone's pretty much said what I think. I mean, I will argue that I do think wrestling is a bit unnecessary to be doing in this, but I'm not going to argue because it's given me something to watch. Especially football, soccer over here. That's been a big part of my weekends that I don't have. So I'm grateful to have wrestling to watch, especially 4 shows a week. It's great. But I think both AEW and WWE have put on some great shows, and it's been very entertaining, and it's different in not a bad way.
Well said. I think we all agree that we're at least thrilled to have wrestling no matter what state it's in, considering we don't have any other sports. And I think we should wrap it up here. With Baron Botch, Lord Lewis, Duke Dre, I'm Queen KB. Thank you for joining us at the first Wrestle Royalty Royal Council. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Rest in peace, Shad Gaspard.
Yes.
Yes.